Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast Addendum, here with the final of the several campaign concepts Relic has so far presented in the survey. And that's basically 1940 France, specifically the invasion of France, the Battle of France. You know, 1940, Germany enters, beats France in roughly a month. And, you know, that's basically over. It took less time for them to do it than it took for the Americans to break through Normandy. So, I mean, overall, what would sort of be special about 1940 France? Well, in many sense, I mean, you should know how the balance of vehicles works, sort of, you know, rather, you know, different. It'd be the French with the sort of the very tough tanks, for example, the British would also have the tougher tanks, the Germans, on the other hand, be the swifter, the speedier ones, but, you know, they would have a lot of, you know, amazing penetrating powers to have to rely, you know, more on flanking maneuver and flak 88s, I guess, to somehow, you know, deal with them. But there'd also be, you know, just a lot less, you know, the more sort of, you know, specific bigger weapons that, you know, Tiger tanks. In fact, there's sort of be, you know, greater limitations there. There'd also be sort of limitations in, yeah, in fact, just a lot of equipment. There'd be sort of just rifles, submachine guns, for the most part, bolt action rifles, submachine guns, some mortars, some artillery. So in some ways it wouldn't be, you know, quite the same, you know, so, you know, full on 1944, 43 or 45, you know, with 1940. There'd also be, you know, sort of less, you know, real different units to pick from. So there would also be, you know, further limitation. And that's sort of, you know, the funny thing. I mean, there's a reason why 1940 France in part isn't just, you know, mentioned that much. In most cases, you know, the games do it, it's just sort of a passing thing before they move on to something else, because ultimately it was just sort of a small campaign compared to everything else. I mean, it wasn't, you know, at the height of World War II. It was just, you know, get in there, beat the French, move on. It's also kind of why I can see the rate they sort of tried to pad it out by, you know, adding in, you know, sort of, you know, made up invasion of England, you know, Operation Sea Lion, which was planned but never executed. And I think that sort of, to an extent, just highlights sort of the weakness of your 1940 France in a sense as their own campaign. You know, it's just, there's not enough meat on the bones. I mean, Normandy 1940, you could easily do Company 3, have it 1944 Normandy again, and you could probably still, you know, find things that, you know, won't come in the first company. You could still make it pretty interesting and exciting, because there's just so many more units, so many things going on there, which won't even come in the first one. Most games never cover. You can sort of try, you know, do something about that and still have it pretty exciting, like the Ostturm, like some of, you know, the 21st Panzer Division, which tends to get overlooked as well pretty aggressively, with its rather particular menagerie of vehicles. So in that regard, you know, while 1940 France could be done, the problem is it wouldn't be able to do much more after that. It would be a much more sort of closed thing, which you can't really take anywhere else. So it just, you know, doesn't seem that amazingly interesting to me. And again, I just don't think you could be able to do a lot with it. I mean, you're better off, you know, just focusing on saying just Operation Barbarossa instead. You know, just have like 1941 Eastern Front there, maybe 1942 instead. I mean, that could probably be a much more better focused experience as well. So I think there's essentially a lot of different things you can do than 1940 France and still have, you know, early war. If you want France again, 1944 Normandy would still, you know, easily, I think, lend itself to being done again if you just do it intelligently and creatively, with perhaps some new ideas for how to build armies, and sort of, you know, customize more and, you know, sort of grab amongst some of the huge amounts of units that sort of fought in Normandy, because there's a great deal of units that fought there, and you can sort of do some things with that. But 1940 France, I think, would overall be a weaker choice in many respects, and lastly, I don't think would lend itself particularly well to, you know, a full game, not even an expansion, maybe sort of a small spin-off at some point, like, you know, here in 1940 France, but as sort of a full experience, a full package, I don't think 1940 France really offers, I think, a sufficient deal to be long-term interesting. And they just, you know, again, it's so they'll just try and sort of shoehorn in some stuff that I sort of theoretical, just something that doesn't fit in the first place. So I rather think we'd be sort of better off just, you know, looking elsewhere than 1940 France. And again, I'm not anticipating, you know, going to, like, you know, Eastern Front 1942, anything like that right away, because the heck, you know, Companies 2 with all that, and they kind of, I think, bit chewed off too much. So again, I think they're sort of aiming towards, you know, Italy 1943 or North Africa, maybe, you know, Germany 1945. I think those would sort of be the more likely cases we could sort of see the game going. Personally, anyways. I mean, who knows? I mean, they could pull off something really interesting, but when they sort of, you know, jump in with, hey, let's invade England and let's bring in the Americans. What about the French? I mean, you sort of get the idea that even they're sort of struggling a bit in this, sense of, limitations. So, personally, I think we could find better places to go than 1940 France, which, really could do a lot more with, and which we could, find more things to do within as players as well. So that is largely sort of it. I mean, there's just not much to cover there. I mean, there's obviously things happen, but just how much you can sort of explore that within the game, like companies too. I think or companies in general. I mean, is a bit limited because again, they're all just unit formations, types, and equipment. All that is just limited pool. So that will sort of be it. So hopefully you liked this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I mean, again, it's probably not the most exciting topic for a lot of people, anyways. But if you get covered. After all, since it's still one of the campaign concepts they brought up, but again, there's just this sort of sense all around that, yeah. So, but again, hopefully you got something out of it. At least got your own thoughts on it. In which case, fire off in the comments. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. But this is Imperial signing off, and hope to see you all another time for another video. If you like what I do consider donating or pledging on Patreon, as that helps me out a ton. And of course, a big thanks to all those who already do pledge. So bye, and see you all for another video.